It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielson and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Oil Stream. It is Nielson and Gazzola with you. As always, brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. I think we're going to catch up with Furby, who runs Popeye's. We're going to get him on for an oil stream because he's a presenting sponsor. Why wouldn't we? And Tommy, there's a new, I don't want to tease too much, but there's a new menu item coming out here in the next little while that we're going to hype up a little bit. What do you think about that?
I'm scared and excited all at the same time. That's great news. Furby's a beauty, and he's a brilliant guy getting all these Popeyes and delicious fried chicken. I like fried chicken. It's fried chicken. I like fried chicken.
So we'll catch up with Furby at some point here over the next couple of weeks. And we know that cups went over so well. You're really on the chicken sandwich is delicious. And you can get it in drive-thru. You can go in again, DoorDash. We're back to normal. You get chicken sandwich and eat it wherever you want. And they've got another little treat for you coming here as well. So we'll get to that. We'll get your Ken Morrison Remax question of the day a little bit later on as well. But old Tommy Gazzola here, the old shit disturber when it comes to the jerseys. Like, so far we've had two things this offseason, Tommy. We've had Shore signing, which pretty much tore Edmonton apart. And then we've got this jersey thing. And once again, even just to your tweet, seemed like a little overreaction. Like nothing significant has happened yet, Tommy. And I'm still afraid we're not going to be able to handle that.
What's going on, Edmonton? Like, what is going on? I tweeted that out. That was like a throwaway. It's like, here's your jersey update for next year. They're just flipping the home jerseys to the navy predominantly, and then the orange will be sprinkled in there. And it took off, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Oh, yes, and the going back to the Royal Blues, that's eventually going to happen. That's the plan. There's a new marketing regime that is in place there at OEG, more in tune with the fan base. I know them personally. A right decision by OEG in regard to that. So they get it. They listen. They see what the fans are saying. They pay attention to what the fans are wearing, this new regime, the new people in charge. And yeah, I mean, Dusty, it just blew up. I thought it was just a throwaway tweet. Just, hey, by the way, the navies become the home primaries, and then the orange will be worn like every now and then, kind of like what we saw last year. And people went berserk on this thing. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? So yeah, it was Devon Shore all over again, but people I don't know what it is. Is it something in the water here? Like, what's going on?
Careful what you say about water, Tommy.
I know, but I know our fan base here is completely passionate, and they love the team. They love the aesthetic of the team. But I was like, oh my goodness, like that really took off. Yeah. Whoops. Sorry.
If it was so what we're thinking here is you get the navy blues for a year and then goodbye forever, essentially, do you think?
Possibly, but just when I talk to people around there, they say that going back to the Royal Blues is the goal, and it's not going to happen this year, maybe 2 years from now. After this year, pardon me, is more appropriate to say. Yeah. And I don't know. They don't know if it's going to be straight up, just going back to the classic look like they had a few years ago, or if they kind of tweak and modernize the royal blue. But it's kind of all those options on the table. But it sounds like the goal is to go back to that.
What would your ideal 3 uniform setup be, Tommy?
It would be the royal blue, the royal blue away uniform like the whites, and the orange that we saw between 2015 and 2017. I thought those were really well done. I remember, Dusty, like I was still at Oilers TV during those days, and when they switched away from that orange, there was some discussion that they thought that the orange looked too red, almost flames-like at times on television, and that was part of the decision. They wanted to modernize, and again, those people that came up with those decisions no longer are working there or in charge of making those decisions. So
Fresh
was
start.
the look to me, fresh start. And I thought those three were a really good trio and probably the best that the Oilers ever looked. Like just really sharp, really modern, but still had that classic feel to it. And
100% what I would go back
Yeah.
to. I think that would be the three. I don't mind. You'll see that one picture of McDavid and like almost the navy blue, but in the old royal blue style, kind of like the Condors. Those kind of. I don't hate that either. Wouldn't mind seeing that mixed in down the road at some point, maybe as an alternate. But I think the blue, the white, and then a sprinkling of the orange. I think it's there for it. That's a great kit. To steal a soccer term, like that's a great 3 jersey set. I think that would be the way to go. So
it is,
Dusty.
Like, and I know we talked about a little bit on your show this morning, but like the current navy blue, the idea and the concept is fine, but the execution is poor. Like the thin 2 stripes, the bigger numbers on the arms. The toilet seat collar that has half orange and then a little bit of orange with the strings on the neck. Like, just, it didn't work. Like, it's a bad look. So,
like the color itself, the blue itself ain't bad. Yeah. The rest of it's just no good. Don't like it.
Yeah, no bueno.
So, no bueno. That's right, Tommy.
No bueno.
All right. Okay, a couple other things to get to here. Montreal Canadiens right now having a ton of unexpected success, to be honest with you. I mean, we're sitting here watching and enjoying it myself, seeing these young guys in Caulfield and Suzuki and Kotkaniemi, it's unbelievable. But at the same time, I'll tweet about the Habs, and some Oilers fans will chime in. I got some text messages on it this morning on the Smash Hit Nielsen show, which you did a great job covering for me over 6 days here in recently. And a lot of people are saying, Ken Holland said, got to pick your years. Like, you can't go for it every year. And people are looking at it going, well, the Montreal Canadiens are the team that came out of the North. They're a team that's pushing Vegas to the brink. Should Ken Holland go back on his words here and say, every year you got to be going for it? Like, every year with McDavid and Draisaitl, you got to be going for it now. I think this year, personally, for me, I think this year was very unique. Well, it was very unique. So I don't think it's unique. It was very unique. And I think we've said since then that moving forward here, you're going to try to be all in as much as you can every year with McDavid and Draisaitl. So, Tommy, does that change what we think about Ken Holland's approach this past deadline? And I know a lot of people look for any reason to kind of criticize the guy. Mm-hmm. Is this, seeing Montreal's success now, does that justify another reason to get on Holland for not going after it at the deadline?
Montreal didn't go after it last year going into the bubble, did they? They were sellers and they surprised Pittsburgh. Like, it's year to year. I don't know. I thought they tried to add depth on defense. They got Kulikov. They were handcuffed by the budget, and it's kind of revisionist history now. Like, he tried to do what he could with as little wiggle room as he had. Was it great? No. Did it work? Absolutely not. To go back on it and be like, hey, he should have gone all in. I don't think that's completely fair. I mean, I think we're going to see him go pedal to the metal now. And certainly the appetite for winning now is through the roof, and understandably. But to go back and say, hey, he made a big mistake by not going to – who knew that Eric Stahl would be that good? Who knew that the Habs would get on this roll? They're feeling it, Dusty. Like, they're feeling it. They got a little bit of confidence after that first round win against Toronto, and then they sweep Winnipeg. They're feeling it, and they're kind of catching lightning in a bottle right now, and that happens from time to time. You don't know when it's going to happen, but it happened for the Habs, and it's great to see on their part. But to go back and look at the Oilers at Ken Holland and be like, you should have done what Marc Bergevin did this year, I don't think that's entirely fair. He made a go of it. He tried 2 years ago too, getting Athanasiou and Mike Green and Tyler Ennis. So, it's touch and go. I mean, sometimes you got to hit that throttle, like Drive to Survive in F1. Sometimes you got to be really delicate on the brake. It's touch and go. So sometimes you need to push it. Box, P1. You never know. But to go back on that, I don't think that's fair.
I think you have to just look at the situation he was in. It's not like we came out of the trade deadline this year, and we're going on the oil stream or TSN 1260 the next day going, wow, they have a ton of assets sitting there and a ton of cap space, and they did nothing with it. Like, that's not what this was. It would be a completely different situation if they had a ton of cap space and had 4 second-round picks or something that they could have moved to bring in help. They were in a situation, partially because of Ken Holland, partially because of who was here before him, that it wasn't ideal and it wasn't a perfect storm for them to really go after it this year. So, yeah, I mean, Montreal, if you look what Montreal did, they brought in Stahl a little bit prior to the deadline, tried to dabble in the blue line a little bit after that. It's not like they reworked their entire team prior to the blue line. What happened was they got healthy. And they caught some breaks along the way in the postseason, and they brought in a natural goal scorer in Caulfield. And I mean, the lineup has changed quite a bit since the one that we saw play against the Edmonton Oilers. So yeah, I think that's interesting. Is my lip bleeding?
I can't tell from here. Is it? Did you bite
I think I'm leaking. I don't know how. I'm looking on the screen. I'm like,
battle wounds, man.
2 minutes.
The oil stream will take it out of you, I swear.
Damn. God.
Oh boy, you're just feeling it today.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I'm leaking here. All right, Tommy. Let's see. Look at it. There it is. 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah. Don't get Chris Lee on that call.
Yeah, God, let's not even go on Chris Lee. I don't feel like going off on officiating today. Tommy, we know McLeod came in here, looked pretty good. I'm going to be a part of this team moving forward. What are the chances that his line mates, Benson and Marody, like, do you think there's an opportunity here for the Oilers to say, hey, if you guys want to come in here and find some of that chemistry you had in the American League, and we're going to promote this line like Tampa did with their young guys 4 or 5 years ago with the Yanni Gourds and Palat and those types of guys? Personally, I don't see it, but do you think there's any chance that happens?
I don't. I truly don't. I think that Marody is a tweener. I think he's kind of been labeled as a tweener, and he had a great year in the AHL last year, but we've talked about it on this show that the AHL wasn't the usual AHL last season. He took advantage, which is great. I don't see him making his way to the Oilers roster. If he does, great. I'm more than happy to be wrong if he can become a full-time NHLer, but I think he's more of a tweener. The one that stands out to me is Tyler Benson. Tyler Benson had a great year. There's nothing that he hasn't done to give himself a chance and to warrant that opportunity. And he's kind of become this forgotten guy to a certain extent because people got excited about Ryan McLeod. He's a centerman. He looked good when he played the dozen games as an Oiler. Was he really that effective, though, especially in the offensive zone? No, but it takes time, and that's kind of his MO. Like, when he gets to a new level, it takes him a little bit of time to get acclimated and all that. So Tyler Benson, to me, is the likelier of him and Marody to get that chance. Cause like I said, the progression that he's had has been pretty steady and pretty good. Expect McLeod to be there. I mean, I think he did a pretty good job in the games that he did play it. And I think they expect him to take that next step, but Marody's the one where I feel like they would look at and go, I don't know. Maybe if we need a fill in or a call up, we'll get Cooper Marody up here. That's just my assessment of how they go about those guys. Yeah,
I think McLeod's penciled in for sure. Marody, I would describe as a long shot right now. And Benson, I think his future in this lineup essentially comes down to what they do with their free agency this offseason and what the cap is. I mean, if they're sitting there, they might get to a point where they're trying to decide, should we spend more money on a top line left winger? And then we'll have to bring up Benson to play further down the lineup, or should we separate it and get 2 guys that can come in and play? So I think nothing against him personally dictating his own future, but I think a big chunk of it will be the opportunity that is either there or not there for him following what could be a pretty busy free agency period. And then there's Holloway. I don't know what ends up happening with Holloway next year, but he's kind of an X factor heading into next season as well. Dangle dump on the live stream on my Twitter account at Nielson TSN 1260. He asked a little bit about Darnell Nurse. We were going to talk about Darnell Nurse anyway, Tommy, who can be signed here by the Oilers this offseason. And obviously he's going to be a big ticket here. Is this, I mean, at this point, if you're the Oilers, you're looking max term. And if you're Darnell Nurse, like, what's the number? Is this an 8x8 type of deal? Is it a 7x8 type of deal? Like, what do you think?
He's the guy that could warrant asking for 8, especially after the year he had. the Oilers could look at him and go, well, you did it last year. Are you going to be able to do it for the next 8 to 10 years? And I'm sure they hope so. But yeah, I thought for sure it would be the floor for him per year on this next deal would probably be 7.
Yeah.
I think 8 is fair. I don't know if you're going to get more than Leon Draisaitl, even though Draisaitl signed that deal, 4 or 5 years ago now. But I think Darnell Nurse could, he could force the Oilers' hand to a certain extent. He could do 8 by 8. And, there'd probably be way less pushback this time around for his contract negotiation than there was a year ago.
Can you imagine what it would have been like last year? But this is a good point. This is how much things can change in a year. Like last year, with the way that Nuge finished with Draisaitl, people would have been willing to pay way more for Nuge than Darnell Nurse. And now it's, taking a complete 180 here. It's Darnell Nurse has basically got a blank check from the fan base, I would think. Like I would feel really good about max years at like $7.5 million. Lock that up right now. But You're right, man. He might be an $8 million ticket on the back end. And if you're the Oilers, you got to pay it. Like you can't mess around here. I don't think
you need him. It's as simple as that. You need him. And he's got them by the short hairs, if you will.
A pube joke right here on the Oil Stream with Nielsen and Gazzola. All right, so if you're watching on the live stream and you want to chime in, what would the number be for Darnell Nurse? We're gonna have some time to think. Do you think this is a deal that gets done this offseason, Tommy, or do they risk it a little bit here? Do they play risky business for Kenny Holland?
Man, the slate is full right now to try to figure out what the team looks like next year. I don't know if it gets done. I think it's something that likely gets pushed into the season, and kind of like last go round with Darnell Nurse, mid-season, all of a sudden we have a deal and it's like, oh, okay. And I feel like that could be the same scenario again. Worked out last time. Ken Holland's got a lot of work and a lot on his plate right now. So I don't know if Darnell Nurse it should be a priority, but you got to fill out your roster first before you go into next year. And
you got to have a bunch of guys who will be here to play with Darnell Nurse next year, and then maybe you take care of that. So we'll see how it plays out. Maybe it's a night before puck drop. They announced the Nurse extension or something like that. That'd be all right. OS17 says, for Nurse, I'd say 7.5 is the highest I would go right now. Flicker George is saying 7 by 7. Chris is saying 7.25 by 8 years. So I think people will be, if you can get them under 8, I think most people would be pretty happy. I think if you have to go 64 mil over 8 years, there'd be some people who wouldn't like it. But I think if the number starts with a 7, you might be, you have to remember, you're buying essentially all of them are UFA years, right? So it's going to cost you for sure. All right, let's get to your Ken Morrison Remax Excellence question of the day. Give him a call, 780-993-4815. Visit the website, kenrmorrison.com. If you need something sold, list it with Ken. He'll take care of it for you. He's been around for 20 years and 10 years as a realtor with Remax Excellence here in Edmonton. And Tommy, I don't know if you've seen on Facebook, it pops up his parody song commercials. Yes. Have you seen these things? Buddy,
yes.
This is after a soft spot in my heart, man. Like I watch these and I just go, God damn, Ken Morrison must be hilarious. Like that's all I can think of.
He's a funny dude. He's good people. And I can't remember the name of the lady that does those parodies.
She's great.
She's razor sharp. It's pretty funny. And she does like arm flail dances and I think there was a Nickelback one last week too, I believe, if I recall correctly. So that tugs on the old heartstrings.
Was that the Hero one, right? Didn't they do a Hero one? Was that the Nickelback one?
Was it that or How You Remind Me? Anyway, it was.
There was a How You Remind Me one. Oh,
I was just like, bravo.
That's too good.
So good.
That's great. Anyway, give Ken a call, 780-993-4815. Ken Morrison Remax question of the day. What do you got, buddy?
All right, the Ken Morrison Remax question of the day is this. It's more broader scope, Dusty, and I know we're pretty macro focused on the Oilers, rightly so. It's the Oil Stream, but take a look at your crystal ball and project the Pacific Division next season. How does it look? How many of those teams? Do we just get 3 playoff teams out of that division? Is it a weak division? How good is the Central? Where does Seattle slot into all of this? Is it just going to be Vegas at the top and then the Oilers second? Does anyone compete with the Oilers for second? Does one of the California teams actually wake up and have a good season? project the Pacific Division, if you will, for next season. That is the Ken Morrison Remax question of the day.
Buddy, for the most part, it's a disaster. Like, the division next year is going to be an absolute disaster. If you thought Connor McDavid torched the North this year, I mean, the fourth place team in the North is on the verge of going to the Stanley Cup final. I don't think we're going to say the same about San Jose or Los Angeles or Anaheim or an expansion team. Could happen. Highly unlikely that it does.
Yes.
And then you got Vancouver and Calgary. Like, it is by far, without a question, the weakest division in the National Hockey League next year. And it's a two-horse race at the top. It's funny you asked this because I was thinking about it, and I think everybody just kind of thinks Vegas will be at the top. But I'm not too sure they will. Like, I think the Oilers can challenge Vegas for top spot in the division next year and possibly finish in the top spot next year. Vegas has to wiggle some things around here. Like, they were in a spot this year where they were dressing 15, 16 guys in some games because they're in cap hell. Yep. So they've got to work their way out of that. Obviously, Fleury would likely be gone. He's only got 1 year left on his deal, so that'll free some stuff up. But guess what? When you were going to Fleury and Leonard every single night, you're in a pretty good spot between the pipes. If you're Leonard and somebody else, that's going to weaken you a little bit. So, I mean, it's tough to say exactly what we expect from the Oilers when there's so much room here for them to make a change this offseason. But, I mean, could Vancouver be a little bit better? Yeah. Could Calgary be a little bit better? Sure. I don't think the Kraken are going to have a Golden Knights type of start to their franchise. No. And then, to me, none of the Californian teams, maybe San Jose, and Los Angeles, I know, wants to be active in trying to land some free agents this year, but I think it's a two-horse race at the top, and I think it's a tighter race than many people expected. And I was thinking that before the Knights are in a tight battle here with the Habs, I guess.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, say bye-bye to the Coyotes, too. They go over to the Central. It's a really weak division. I mean, I look at LA and I go, maybe they get some traction going, but at the same time, their roster isn't particularly great. San Jose seems to be spinning its tires. I'm sorry, I don't have any faith in the Dallas Aikens-led Anaheim Ducks. I don't believe the Kraken are going to catch lightning in a bottle the way the Vegas Golden Knights were able to. I don't know what to expect from Calgary and Vancouver. Calgary, I thought, was a real disappointment this year. I expected them to compete for top spot in the North Division.
I thought they were going to be good. Yeah.
There's some issues there. Who knows what they're going to look like if there's going to be some movement with the Flames too. So I think it's kind of wide open. I do think the Golden Knights should be the first place team, but the Oilers have finished second in their respective division the last 2 years. I think that gets forgotten a little bit, Dusty, too. When people talk about the Oilers, like, it seems to be the knives are out when they're talking about the Oilers. Yeah, they were bad in the playoffs 2 years in a row. It sucks. But in the regular season, they've been a pretty good team. And you would think, ideally, that they'd take another step in the right direction and compete for first. But I think it's going to be wide open in the Pacific. It is not a good division.
No, it's not a good division at all. The Oilers, like, I know stranger things have happened, but to me, they've already clinched a playoff spot. Like, unless Ken Holland has like the worst offseason of all time, and like Cooper Marody is centering your second or third line, like, they should be a playoff team next season. It'd be I don't even need to see what they do this offseason to say that if they don't make the playoffs next year, it's a major disappointment. I think even with just McDavid, Draisaitl, and freaking Koskinen between the pipes, you should be a playoff team in that division next year. And I know you don't like Valin Camus there, buddy, but like, that's how weak I think the division is.
Hang on. It's not that I don't like him. It's just that I don't think he's an exceptional NHL goaltender.
You hate him.
He's a nice guy. No, I don't.
I'm just messing with you.
I know.
All right, so there you go. That's another episode of The Oil Stream, brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. That was your Ken Morrison Remax. Excellent question of the day. And I can't wait to see how, after free agency, how this division actually looks, because it does seem to be like a little bit of a mess. Tommy, we'll catch up again on Friday, buddy. And I'm probably going to be in a tank top and shorts because it'll be plus 35 out, and I'm not looking forward to it at all, buddy.
Okay, no cargo shorts and put your Doritos in the freezer. Try it. I swear it's so good.
Somebody today told me Hawkins Cheesies as well. In the and somebody DM'd me, slid into my DMs. This is the life that we live. Somebody slid into my DMs and said, Dusty, Hawkins Cheesies freezer. You'll thank me later. So we'll see how this bad boy plays out, buddy. Anyway, we'll catch up on Friday, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dusty. Good to be back.
For Tom Gazzola, I'm Dustin Nielsen. That's another episode of the Oil Stream. Subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening on the podcast, thank you very much. If you're watching the live stream, subscribe to the podcast. Just search the Oil Stream on all of your podcasting platforms. We'll be back with another episode on Friday.